These individuals are charged with running a prostitution and international sex trafficking business.
The victims in this case, 64 of them, were subject to deplorable living and working conditions with no way out.
Investigators believe the little girl may be the victim of a child trafficking plot.
I have 4 daughters, and I just can't imagine, someone taking one of my daughters and using them for human trafficking. I think it's absolutely disgusting.
Human trafficking is one of the fastest growing crimes in the world, rivaled only by the illegal sale of drugs and guns. It's also one of the most lucrative, generating billions for sophisticated criminal organizations. The latest global estimates indicate that 50 million people are trapped in modern-day slavery. That's nearly 1 of every 150 people in the world.
And I think there's a misconception that like a stranger is doing this to you, right? Like a white van pulls up and pulls you off from the street and does this to you. That's just not how it works. It's a relational crime. Someone is trying to get to know you incredibly well and finding out what is missing from your life, and then offers a solution to fill those gaps. And that is how human trafficking works in the majority of cases we see in Toronto.
So I was just turning 13 and I was lured and groomed into being trafficked. So I was trafficked for about 3.5 years, all across Canada and into some of the upper US states.
Jennifer Richardson is one of the lucky ones. After years of being bought and sold across North America, Jennifer escaped.
I had been beaten up pretty badly and was in Montreal, and a general patrol officer seeing how badly I was beaten up and said, like, I'm not going to let you be here. I'm going to remove you.
That was 20 years ago. Jennifer warns that technology is making it easier for criminals to lure and track victims.
We do crisis work as well at Victim Services Toronto, supporting a survivor who called our crisis line and needed to flee her trafficking situation immediately. We moved her to a new hotel. About an hour later, at the new hotel, 2 other men associated with her trafficker showed up. And we're like, what is going on here? How do they know where she is? And so immediately we took her to the hospital. We again called the police, they were arrested. And we said we need to get her body scanned because we think that there's a microchip with like a GPS tracker, like they would insert into a dog. And in fact, there were 2.
I've told many parents that their kids are being trafficked, and I've told them their kids are being trafficked in their bedrooms because of webcams now, computer access, Bitcoin and all these different, technologies now that kids don't even actually need to leave the house. They're being threatened over their phone or over their laptops.
You can't even imagine that. They're just innocent young children, and they're being taken advantage of. And we're going to make sure that we put an end to it, and we'll put every resource, every single penny we have towards stopping this.
In fact, Ontario is investing a record $307 million to combat human trafficking by launching public education campaigns to raise awareness of human trafficking before it occurs. Investing in community-based services such as health clinics to provide additional supports for survivors. Requiring school boards to include anti-human trafficking protocols, strengthening the power of child protective services, increasing penalties for traffickers, making it easier to get a restraining order against a trafficker, establishing a dedicated team of Crown prosecutors, investing in police services to help coordinate investigations, working with the hotel industry to identify victims, and partnering with the trucking industry to raise awareness about the movement of victims on Ontario highways.
The Act actually has a number of initiatives that have been key to helping keep people safe. We are requiring people who care for child victims of human trafficking to apply for a restraining order, for child protection workers or peace officers to temporarily relocate 16 and 17-year-olds in order to give them the opportunity to access protective measures and supports and resources. We're also training educators, and we're also helping survivors of human trafficking in Ontario with transitional housing and rent assistance. We're seeing a lot of women rebuild their lives after being trafficked. A lot of people rebuild their lives after being trafficked. And that's what we want, to give all of these people another chance.
So many people understand human trafficking to be sexual exploitation, which of course in many cases it is. But not many people are thinking of the financial exploitation that goes hand in hand with the sexual exploitation. So two forms of financial exploitation occur: coerced debt and fraudulent debt. So fraudulent debt would be if your trafficker is like holding your identifications and opening a credit card in your name without your knowledge, which happens all the time. And more often we see coerced debt. So they're saying you have to open this credit card in your own name. You have to put this utility bill in your name. You are going to wait in the car while we're at the car dealership, and when I tell you to come in, you're gonna sign this lease, and then you're gonna get back in the car. And so when you do eventually leave your trafficking situation, sometimes you don't even know that you have all this debt following you. And sometimes it's used as a mechanism to keep you trafficked. So, well, if you leave, how are you going to pay off your $20,000?
It's a pleasure to rise in the House today to speak on the topic of human trafficking and how we can all collectively work together to fight against it.
In a rare moment in Ontario politics, representatives from the three major parties work closely together to pass a bill that forces financial institutions to wipe clean the debt incurred by victims of human trafficking. I declare the motion carried.
It will prohibit the collection of those debts that were coerced, onto the survivors. And it will also prohibit credit unions and other financial institutions to take those debts into account in the consumer report for that individual.
The traffickers are just horrible, horrible human beings that should be locked up and the key thrown away. And these are the people that these women, primarily women, are victims of. And even after they escape, they're still victims because they have this financial debts. And so the bill was designed to remove those financial debts, so it at least removes one barrier for them from getting on with their healing.
For years, authorities focused on sexual exploitation when investigating human trafficking. But in 2009, that changed when a rookie RCMP officer identified and helped successfully prosecute Canada's first case involving labor trafficking. This is Ancaster, an affluent community just outside of Toronto. Back in 2009, when residents were going about their daily business, 23 Hungarian immigrants were being trafficked, held captive in the basements of several of these multi-million-dollar homes.
When they started researching who was living there, all these people were their refugee claimants, and they weren't, nobody knew they were working. And I saw this poor little man. I mean, he was almost 50 years old. He had his hat in his hand. He was sweating. He was so upset, didn't speak English. And he said to me, he said, "I'm afraid to go back to that house. Please don't make me go. They're keeping my money. They're making me work. I can't call my family. Please don't make me go back there." And that's the nexus, the genesis of this investigation. So laying those first charges for labor trafficking in Canada was very difficult. Many people, different organizations were looking at this as if it was a labor dispute. This is exploitation. That's not a labor dispute. A labor dispute would be, well, you only paid me $1,000, but I was supposed to get $1,500. These people were getting nothing. They weren't allowed to leave their home. Where's your document? You're not moving freely with your documents?
My name is Selene Mateo Solis. I'm a survivor of human trafficking, labor human trafficking.
In 2018, Selena was among 43 Mexican migrant workers lured by traffickers with promises of high-paying jobs in Canada. Instead, she lived in squalid conditions and was forced to work for little to no pay.
We were like about 28 people in one house, in a two-bedroom house. The reason that we stayed there, it was because I was a little bit scared about being deported or have any consequence.
It was another year before Selena and fellow victims were rescued in pre-dawn raids in a joint operation between police and Canada Border Services Agency. Shortly afterwards, 20 more workers came forward to authorities.
Commonly, when you're asked, like regular people or citizens from this country, they're like, no, that's not happening here. But yes, it is.
What's the next thing to be looking at in the world of human trafficking? I think there's two areas that I would definitely be looking at if you look at the media. If you look at P. Diddy and a lot of other people in the United States that have been arrested as of late. Child trafficking. You could see it in the media with all the different movies that are coming out with child trafficking. And when we hear child trafficking, people think a 16-year-old or a 12-year-old. Children are being trafficked at the age of 7, 6, 5, 4. We have to think of that group of people that are being trafficked as well. Number two, organ trafficking. If you look at the world, the industry for organ trafficking is enormous. In Canada, we have no pulse on it. There's been a few cases in the United States, but very minimal. And I think it's another area that we need to focus on is organ trafficking. People cannot be sold in a day and age of today. You cannot be selling people.